This video may contain offensive language or be frightening to some viewers. Viewer discretion is recommended. In the fog. Last night, I had no idea what happened. It started out creepy enough. It had been raining most of the day, and by 6 last night, there was a fairly thick fog. My parents also went out, and I was stuck home watching the dog. Around 7, as I was watching TV, the dog started acting weird. He would randomly jump up and stare down the hall towards the bedrooms, as if he'd seen or heard something. I didn't think too much of it, since we also have a cat, and assumed that's what he was seeing. Even though we've had them both for 7 years, they still haven't gotten used to each other. It wasn't until 7:30 when it got really weird. I went to the bathroom, and since I was home alone and the dog would scratch at the door if I closed it, I left it open. From the bathroom, if I look at the mirror at just the right angle, I could see across the hall and into my bedroom. When I was washing my hands, I saw it. There was a humanoid figure standing at my desk. The room was dark, the time of day combined with the fog outside, causing only a dim blue-grey light to pour in through the window, so I couldn't make out any details. What I could see was that the figure was tall and incredibly thin. Its head cleared the top of the window, so it was easily over 7 feet. It was just standing there, glancing around the room. I walked out of the bathroom, past the dog, who was acting like he had before, staring intently into my bedroom, and into the room. It was empty. I managed to convince myself it was nothing, just something reflected funny in the mirror, combined with the low light. A few minutes later, I went to let the cat out. At this point, it was almost pitch black out. The sun had almost completely set, and the fog was thicker. So as I closed the door, I flicked the outside light on. Just at the edge of the light's range, right at the tree line of the backyard, I saw what looked like a crouched figure. As I stared at it, trying to tell if I was seeing things again, it slowly stood up. At that point, one of the neighbours got home, the headlights from their car illuminating the woods behind the house. Somehow, even though the surrounding trees were illuminated, the figure still seemed encased in shadow. Just as the car lights went out, the figure disappeared. It's safe to say I went around, making sure the doors were locked, and turned most of the lights on in the house, until my parents got back. I know someone's going to ask about this, but don't worry. I let the cat in later last night. She was fine. And I thought this whole Slenderman thing was just a creepypasta. Hotel window. Once it was about 1 in the morning, the 3 of us headed back up to the room. Our other 3 friends were already up there, and changed to go to sleep. Of course, we're all pretty young, no one above 21, so we logically stayed up a while to talk. Our room was one of those annoying ones, where you can't do anything to close the curtains, so they were wide open, and some of us were just staring out the window while we talked. After we'd been talking a while, one friend said, "Hey, what's that in the window over there?" All of us sat up to look, but it was hard to see from the beds, so we ended up with all 6 of us crowded around the window, just staring across the way. Over there, it was another hotel. There was one long line, up and down, of windows. Most of the curtains were closed, lights off, and so on. One window was different though. The curtain was open, and we could see a figure standing there. It looked like a guy, sort of swaying back and forth. I brought up that it reminded me of a scene in 1408, and was immediately ordered to shut up. So we kept watching. The figure kept swaying. Someone mentioned Slenderman. It just kept moving. I think we were all at the window for a good 15 or 20 minutes, and it just kept swaying there. I think everyone said at least one thing that it could have been. The worst of which was the idea that someone hanged themselves over there. Eventually, we all forced ourselves to go back and to lay down, since we were all pretty creeped out at that point. Before we fell asleep, we mentioned how it would be even worse if it wasn't there the next night. Because if it wasn't there anymore, well, what could it have been? If it was there, it was just part of the hotel room. Once we got back to the room the next night, we checked the window across the way. There was nothing there. My encounter with Slenderman. In my old neighbourhood, I thought I saw this thing. This weird, long thing standing next to the streetlight. I've read the stories. I've seen the post. I knew what it was. Yeah, you know, tall, slender, black, no face. Slenderman. I knew how dangerous it was that I saw him, so I've moved. I moved together with my family to a village near a mountain. This day, my wife told me she saw some man climbing the mountain in the morning, and now that it was night time, 11:23 to be exact, he still wasn't back. I was freaked out, but I went to bed anyway. I couldn't fall asleep, so I decided to check out the room a bit more, have a look in the drawers and cupboards, considering we had just moved in, and I hadn't fully checked out the room yet. As I was searching through one of the drawers, I found something in the back corner. There was a small tape and a cassette player along with it. Curious, I popped in the tape and pressed play. I heard a lot of static, but eventually some voices came out. A male voice and a younger boy's voice as well. "Jimmy, what did the man say?" "Nothing." "Did he do anything?" "Nothing." "What did he do to you, Jimmy?" "Nothing." Jimmy, we know he did something." "Nothing." This kid just kept saying nothing, interrupting what seemed to be a doctor the whole time. Then suddenly, the static came back.
Here, he's going to kill us.
Jimmy, he's not here. You're hallucinating, Jimmy.
No.
It broke off into static. I freaked out, switched it off. I shouldn't have. The moment I switched it off and turned around, there he was. He looked through my window at me, before suddenly he broke the glass with what looked like tentacles protruding from his back. I screamed for my life as my wife and son broke through the door and asked me what was wrong. He followed us. He's here, I said, unable to stifle my fear. I took my family and headed towards the mountain. This house wasn't safe. Anywhere would be better. We came to the mountain, and I found a cave for us to hide in. We huddled up in a corner to wait out the night. I was exhausted and soon fell asleep. I didn't dream, however. My sleep was plagued with nightmares. Grain everywhere, static, grinding. Slenderman kept coming closer and closer without moving at all. Then I woke up. I noticed my wife was gone and my son was in the corner, crying. He said, he was mumbling. Jimmy? What did the man say? Nothing. A battle started, a real one this time, rather than the teaser I had experienced earlier. My heart sank as Wally's sprite slid into the opposing trainer's spot. His skin was pale, his colours were washed out,